Hey everybody, welcome back to some more early morning barking, talking about BPD and NPD by somebody that has both. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, please, and do all the socially things scrolling past you on the screen right now. Also, I've got a super thanks button if you want to hit that up and buy me a coffee. That's very much appreciated. It helps support me and the channel. And also, hop on over to Patreon at patreon.com/earlymorningbarking, where you can get some extra videos and podcasts that I put there every week, and chat to me on Discord and all kinds of things like that. Thank you to everybody who supports the channel and helps me out like that. It's so appreciated, and you're all so awesome. Today is a topic that I thought would just be easy. And then I started thinking it through, and then I thought, damn, I'm going to have to make some notes. And I actually got a piece of paper and a pen, and I wrote notes. And then I kept writing notes and more, and now I've got a big page of notes, and it's a mess. And rather than try and organize it, I'm just going to start talking at you, and we'll see what comes out the other side. That's fun, isn't it? This is probably going to go on for about 25 minutes, so get comfortable. Let's see what happens now. Signs that you have bad boundaries. Sounds really simple, but at the same time, it's not. Bad boundaries. I suppose we have to start by saying what a bad boundary is. No, it's difficult. Let's start by talking about the effects of bad boundaries. These are signs, feelings you might have, and I think from that we can start to extrapolate other things. I'm trying to figure this out in my own head as we go along, because it breaks down into two groups of boundary things, which is dealing with the boundaries of how other people treat us and dealing with the boundaries of how we treat other people. And these two are very linked. They're not separate, but for the sake of trying to organize talking about them, we can split them into these two different groups. Having bad boundaries brings with it a lot of day-to-day issues that bring with them further issues. And they happen to us, I think, unexpectedly, without us knowing. And they can be very difficult to shake ourselves out of. Okay? So one of the things, let's just pick something. You start realizing that you're just a tiny bit annoyed all the time. Right? Because you have bad boundaries. This is so hard to talk about. Stay with me. I'm going to get there. I promise. I'm going to get there. Signs of having bad boundaries. Okay. Always trying to please people. This is a bad boundary, right? In itself, it's such a complicated thing. You're always trying to please people, right? You're a pleaser. What does that bring with it? Fear, anxiety, guilt, shame, feelings of failure, feelings of panic, that knot inside your stomach. I'm always trying to please someone. I'm always trying to make them happy. I just want everybody to be happy. The bad boundary there is that that's not necessarily your thing to worry about. Sometimes it can be, we want to make people happy to a certain extent, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about a BPD-esque sort of wanting to make people happy to the nth degree and really worrying about it, right? And when we start to worry about pleasing people all the time, not only do we have all that stress and guilt and worry and shame and angst that comes with it, people can start taking advantage of us. Or we can feel like people are starting to take advantage of us. We lose ourselves. We start worrying about what other people want and start worrying. We only worry about what other people want, and stop worrying about what we want. And then that becomes a thing in itself, because we lose that, and then we start having difficulty making decisions at all, because really what we're trying to do is please somebody else, and we're fearful that we'll make the wrong decision. I think this comes from perhaps some overbearing parental figures early in life, perhaps. I'm not sure. Am I starting to make sense yet? This is just a ball of tangled stuff that we have to just start pulling at. And we can get put upon. We can feel put upon. We can feel constantly worried about everybody's getting us to do things for them. And maybe we will always do things for people. We'll always be that person that does stuff for people no matter what. They'll give you the shirt off their back, that person, they're great. And we want to be that person. But that gets us stuck in toxic relationships as well, because we can give and give and give to a relationship and get nothing back. We can get caught up in worrying about pleasing other people and giving all that stuff, getting nothing back in return, and then feeling annoyed all the time, feeling put upon, feeling taken advantage of, and be taken advantage of from time to time. And all of these things that spread out from these bad boundaries of not being able to say, no, I don't have room to worry about that. I mean, like I say, some things it's reasonable to worry about. Some people it's reasonable to worry about. And I'm not saying or suggesting that you just cut out caring about people. That's not good. That's too far the other way. But what I am suggesting we need to do is take a long, hard look at really what is our business? What is our thing to care about? And in what situations should other people's feelings or thoughts or opinions actually not matter to us? Because, look, I'm not saying you should go through life not giving just not caring what anybody thinks. There's a good way and a bad way of looking about that, isn't there? There's the whole, I don't care what anyone thinks, the whole dance like nobody's watching kind of attitude. And then there's I don't care what anybody thinks, I'm going to just walk to the front of this line and tell everybody to get lost. That kind of thing. There's a good and a bad version of that. I'm almost losing my train of thought. Let me scramble back to it. This inability to say no. This worry about what will people do without us looking after them, doing this thing for them, whatever. I don't know. These lead to bad boundaries, and they need to set them up. And I've found in my own healing process that as I've begun setting up boundaries emotionally, setting up boundaries, being able to say, that's not my thing to care about now. I don't have to worry about that. Or that's entirely your business and I feel bad for you, but I've got my own stuff going on. That kind of thing. It's usually okay when you do that. I think you can expect in some cases some kickback from some people when you try to set up boundaries, because ultimately you're telling them no. And some people won't like to be told no about various things in various ways, and you have to make sure that you do it diplomatically and reasonably. And like I say, I'm not talking about cutting people off altogether. I'm talking about this analyzing your own behavior and seeing what's reasonable. When you're trying to please everybody all the time, like if you're continually giving people rides everywhere, sometimes it's no bother, right? Sometimes something's on your way, you're going that way anyway, and the person's with you, they're just going to jump out along the way. Who cares? Fine. And then other times someone's ringing you up saying, can you just come and get me? And you can sort of distinguish between these times of, I don't mind, to, look, dude, I'm not your taxi. And that's just one of like a million examples of how we let people put things upon us. I've had to learn things like liking whatever music I like wearing whatever clothes I want to wear, especially things like trainers and shoes and that sort of thing. I've had people say to me, Rich, you have a lot of shoes. And I don't have a lot of shoes, but I have some shoes, right? Don't think there's a room of shoes. And the reason why I have that, I've ended up with that, is because I've started being able to make decisions for myself on things. I've started having boundaries and not worrying about what other people think. That was quite a thing for me, and there's obviously a childhood story behind that. The ability to say no, to do things for yourself, is ultimately what we're talking about here. Signs you have bad boundaries are that you don't do things for yourself, that you that you limit your own behaviors based on what other people may do. Sometimes that's reasonable. Most of the time it's not. That's letting other people control you, and they're not even trying. Right? That's giving people power over you that they haven't even asked for or want necessarily. Because you're worrying about helping people all the time. And it's fine to help people. It's good to help people, but not to your detriment. Not at the expense of your mental health and well-being. You can do what you can do. How many times have I said that sort of thing? This is what I can do today, right? And that's okay. You have limits, and those limits might be lower than you'd like them to be, but that doesn't mean that you're a bad person or a failing at life. Signs you might have bad boundaries are when you have got that annoyance, that worn out feeling that I can't stop because what will someone else do? Is that other person really your responsibility? And what do they put you through? Right? What do we put up with? What do we put up with in relationships, in romantic sexual relationships, but also friendships? I think we can put up with a lot from friends that we let people get away with. God, I know I've got away with a lot. But hey, that's just me. But I also let people get away with stuff. I really do, and I always have. And I see other people do it. We have to be able to say no. That's ultimately the sign that you have bad boundaries. Know when to say no. And I haven't even touched on the other stuff yet. You know, the ways we treat other people. This sort of ties in. Because the big thing that comes up for me in this, he says, looking down at his notes, is oversharing. Which ties in very nicely with wanting to please, right? There's this... Oversharing can be trying to get people to like you. It can be mirroring. It can be doing whatever you need to do, that altering of personality type that we do to try and get somebody to like you. Because we don't have that boundary of feeling like we're enough and being confident in who we are, because we don't know who we are, because we've lost our sense of self, because we can't make decisions, because we have bad boundaries over here as well. This is a big, spongy, gooey ball of stuff which is so difficult to pull apart, but you can see really where it all sticks together. And knowing when to say no, not just from external things, but internally as well. Do I need to say this? Do I need to share this? What am I hoping to get? What is too far? Gosh, now we're into social skills and that kind of thing. All from saying who has bad, signs you have bad boundaries. And that oversharing, that wanting people to like you, all of it comes from a fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. We want people to like us. We're desperate for people to like us and not abandon us. So we don't say no to them, because sometimes people don't like having no said to them. So we want to please them all the time, so they'll stick around and like us. We let them take advantage of this. We let ourselves stay in toxic relationships. We overshare stuff. We tell people stuff that's none of their business. In an attempt to get them to like us, we change our personalities, the things we like, the things we say, the way we are. All of these things. Just because we can't say no, because we're afraid that people will not like us and leave us. Because we're afraid we're not enough because of this. This is cyclical. We're on a ride here of one thing linked to another thing, linked to another thing because of that first thing and this other thing over there. It's so difficult to organize it, to put it into words, to try and get it in some sort of order, because everything is so intrinsically linked. I almost feel like it would be best represented as some kind of 3D model, like a cell or a molecule or space. That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of the space map in Elite Dangerous. Trying to map this stuff out, trying to figure out what bit of BPD links to what bit. And all of this is fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, can't say no, and it leads into all the other traits. My God. And we haven't even touched on the narcissistic stuff. That's more about how we treat other people, maybe. What are our boundaries on what is good and bad behavior? On the Behind the Rich podcast that's on Patreon that I recorded today, I was talking about a thing that came up recently where I was explaining to a non-NPD person how I felt about using people. And I said basically I don't feel bad about it in the same way that I don't feel bad about sitting in the chair that I'm in. There's no hate or animosity to it. It's just there is a thing that I can use. There it is. And that really kind of disturbed people to hear. And it disturbs me that makes me grin when I say it. But it's all about boundaries and knowing when to say no. It's about knowing where that boundary lies in how we can treat people. And yeah, we can work with people. We can get people to do things for us for fair reasons, in a fair, obvious way or whatever. We know that we can put a boundary in there and not go into using people, which is a step too far, right? Manipulating people and all the other nasty things that we do. There are boundaries that we have to set up. And that's very difficult for us, because in that case, we're the ones that have to say no. We have to pull a boundary back in closer to us and say, we've been going too far. We've been doing too much. And really, we need to pull it back, because the boundary should be closer than it is. That applies to so much about how we treat people, right? Using them, taking advantage of them, but also the way we think about them, the way we talk to them, the opinions that we have of them. Those boundaries are far too far out there. And so they need to be pulled back in, made safer, made to rein us in. They're keeping us in, as well as everybody else safe. Yeah. I might have to revisit some of this, and I think there's some of it I only just skimmed over. But we are about to hit 20 minutes, like I said, so I'm going to leave it there for today, because that's a lot to take in, and I kind of hope that made sense. I feel like that one might be one of the ones that I think is a load of garbled rubbish, but is actually quite profound. Who knows? And hey, if you made it this far, wow. Aren't you good? Thank you so much for making it this far in such a long video. You might want to check out the other videos on my Patreon. Like I said, at patreon.com/earlymorning. Barking, there's a link in the description below, or hit up the super thanks button. Oh, also don't forget, live streams at Monday night, midnight UK time, and I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern time in the US. So I'd love to see you all there. Until then, you take care. I'll see you later. Bye.